Gracie.
No. Now we're live.
You sure?
I think so.
Yeah, it says in
It says-
broadcast, so
It's gotta be.
You're
Stuff.
smiling a lot.
It's live right now. It's got
Okay.
to be.
Yeah, you're good.
It's counting down if I ain't anyway.
It's supposed to be.
Anyway, all right. So we're in 12. You want to find it right quick so we can get started? Yeah. A little more further. You passed it, darling.
It's the second one.
It's the second chapter of the book. Right here.
Second book of the Bible.
Second, yeah, well, whatever, however y'all want to say it. Right. There, that's where we at. All right, what?
Looks weird.
Were you talking about the green screen thing?
Yeah.
We got a soldier kneeling behind us with a sword and stuff. All right, let's read stuff. Anybody else want to read, or am I still the only one here doing that? But you, Ma.
Go for it.
All right. So, do y'all remember what we talked about in chapter 11 that was leading up to this?
The plays.
The plagues and everything.
What verse?
Hmm?
What verse?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're starting at Exodus 12, which is we got to 11 last time we did this, and now we stopped before we got into 12. So, what you write down? Let's do stuff. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, "This month shall be the beginning of months for you. It is to be the first month of the year to you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th of this month, they are each one to take a lamb for themselves according to their father's households, a lamb for each household. And if the household is too small for a lamb, then he and his neighbor nearest to his house are to take one according to the number of persons in them, according to what each man should eat. You are to divide the lamb. And your lamb shall be an unblemished male, a year old. And you may take it from the sheep or from the goats. And you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel is to kill it at twilight. Moreover,
You had a question about something?
what?
You were making a face.
What's
A
up?
lot of confused things.
No, what? It's just talking about. No, what are you
Just
confused
Do a
about?
summary real fast of what's happening.
So there's fixing to be a whole bunch of folks killed, and they're preparing a sacrifice, and they're gonna spread the blood on the lampposts and stuff like that, or not on the lamppost, on the doorpost. They're gonna use some stuff that's kind of like it's not really like peat moss, but it's kind of like just some of that dry moss that we see in the woods and stuff sometimes, that they're going to use it. What is it called? Hyssop or something? It's in here somewhere.
Well,
And they're going to
they're
paint.
just talking about the sacrifice.
They're just getting ready to do the sacrifice right now, but it has to be a firstborn lamb or goat. And this is parallelism to what Jesus was for us. And this is one of the reasons that I was talking about. You remember me talking about Easter and how Easter was actually a pagan holiday and that kind of stuff. We're actually supposed to celebrate Passover. This is Passover. This is where we were the children of Israel were passed over by the angel of death that the Lord sent down because of the sacrifice that they did and the way that they treated it and what they did with the blood. Let the angel of death know to pass over that house. So that's one of the reasons this is one of the most sacrilegious holidays of the children of Israel. And this is actually when Jesus was crucified and he died and he was sacrificed as our lamb and he was resurrected. It was on Passover. So this is a very important part of the Bible. If there's any other part of the Bible that you're gonna equate to death, burial, and resurrection, this right here and a lot of these other feasts are this very whole bunch of parallelism right here. Another one is Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles, because it's most likely that that's actually when Jesus was born, and that's symbolic of when God tabernacled with men. When am I boring you with this? When God tabernacled with men, as the Feast of Sukkot, this was what's symbolic of that, because that's when that's when He dwelled with us, with Moses, the tent that Moses built. Well, let's squirrel. So I'm gonna do this right here. I know we got a couple of folks in here that might want to come in here and tell me I'm wrong. So let me do that. So anyway, your lamb shall be an unblemished male, a year old. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month, and then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel is to kill it at twilight. And the killing at twilight can also be, you can kind of equate that to the Sabbath, the timing of the Sabbath and stuff also. So moreover, they shall take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and the lintel of the houses in which they eat it. And they shall eat the flesh the same night, roasted with fire, and they shall eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled at all with water, but rather roasted with fire, both its head and its legs, along with its entrails. Now, there's certain parts of it that are given up, but you don't waste any of it. And you shall not leave any of it over until morning, but whatever is left until morning, you shall burn with fire. Now you shall eat it in its manner, with your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. Now, what they're saying right there, you shall eat it in this manner, with your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. It's pretty much saying you need to have your bags packed. Now what they used to do when the dudes would go into battle, when they got ready to run, travel, or fight, or anything like that, they used to wear these big long robes, right? And they would whenever they girded their loins, they used to wear belts, but they'd have these long robes on. They'd have a belt or a string or something like that was holding stuff around their waist. And what it's talking about girding your loins is talking about they would reach up between their legs and they'd pull the back of their robe up. Seriously, it sounds silly, but they'd pull the back of their robe up and they'd stuff it up underneath that string or that belt or whatever that they had, and they would make a onesie out of it, pretty much. But they would get it out of their way, and they'd have their sandals on, They got the bags packed. Everything's ready to go because they're fixing to get out of Egypt. And that's what he was trying to tell them, is have everything ready because we're fixing to do stuff. And so that's what's going on right there. But I will go through the land of Egypt on that night, and I will strike down the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments. I am the Lord. And the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you live. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague will befall you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. And now we're talking about the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Before we talk about that, y'all got other stuff? Y'all got questions? Anybody got questions at
Do you know
all?
what unleavened bread is?
It's like a saltine cracker. It's bread that's not resin, that doesn't have a bread that don't have any, what do you call it? It doesn't have it. Well, it's yeast, but I mean, there is another name for it. It doesn't have any. It's pure. You know, it doesn't have. It's kind of like matzah. It's not well. It's all organic, non-GMO bread, right? Do y'all have any questions about stuff before we keep going? AB's starting to get tired again already. All right. Now this day will be a memorial to you, and you shall celebrate it as a feast of the Lord throughout your generations. You are to celebrate it as a permanent ordinance. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, but on the first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. For whoever eats anything leavened from the first day until the seventh day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. That is pretty dadgum stout stuff right there. That's verse 15, and I don't remember reading that before. But that's pretty stout because we are supposed to be grafted into the tree of Israel.
So my little commentary, it says, eating unleavened bread would remind the Israelites of the rapid departure from Egypt that did not allow time for leavening agent to make the bread rise. Those who ate leavened bread showed disdain for what the Lord had done in founding Israel as a nation, and were subject to either banishment or the death penalty, which was met out of intentionally defiant lawbreakers in Numbers 15:22 through 31, and carried out by human or divine agency.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're taken outside the camp, stoned to death.
Yeah.
But the whole leavening agent part of it, I didn't realize. I never thought about the idea of I never placed the time variable in there. I guess I always just thought,
right?
yeah, that does make sense. But I always equated the leavening part was because it was you were corrupting. You're using fungus to corrupt your wheat.
Oh, like you're talking about impure.
Yeah, and because the symbolism for that part of it is in a lot of places going on through the rest of the book.
Yeah, they do talk unleavened a lot.
So that's where I put it. I never thought about the time part of it.
I'm probably right.
Well, you probably are right. I'm just going to say I'm going to tell the internet that you're right, but it doesn't matter what I believe. So, yeah, that's pretty bad though. I mean, I want to reread that. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. So, removing leaven from our houses, that would be like, we'd have to get all the baking powder out of the cabinet and get all the yeast out of the cabinet and get all the bread and hamburger buns and everything all needs to be out of the house. Anything that has been leavened with any kind of chemical leavening agent or yeast would need to leave this house.
All the good stuff.
It's like, yeah, all the good stuff. That's another way.
All the
we have
parts.
to get rid of goldfish.
That's another way.
I don't
Another way to
think
look
so.
at it. Yeah, we would have to get rid. Well, no, I don't think
Goldfish would probably.
goldfish would probably be okay.
Cheese balls?
I don't
Cheese-
even know what those are made of.
I don't know what. I don't think cheese balls are even kosher.
Stingy.
No.
Stop. Let's just say that. Let's just keep reading. Do you want to read? You want to be internet famous? On the first day you shall have a holy assembly, and another holy assembly on the seventh day. No work at all shall be done on them, except what must be eaten by every person. That alone may be prepared by you. And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for on this very day I brought your hosts out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day throughout your generations as permanent ordinance. And that word host right there can actually, the Greek or the Hebrew thing about the, like, you know, when you see the Lord of hosts sometimes in the Bible, it's talking about the Lord of hosts, talking about our God, Yahweh, Elohim, whatever you want to call him. Don't know what Bible you're reading.
What verse are you on now? I got lost in translation.
17 was the last one that I read. But
Okay.
hosts is actually like military leaders. That's kind of the term that. Anyway, keep that in mind sometimes when you're reading. Some of them say hosts. Some of them say Lord of hosts. Some of them say this. What does yours say?
On 17,
Mm-hmm.
armies.
Yeah. See, there you go.
I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt.
Yep. That's kind of what I was getting to. In the first month, on the 14th day of the evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. 7 days there shall be no leaven found in your houses, for whoever eats what is leavened, that person shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he is, mine says alien. I know that's not what my other book says. Yeah, I know,
Stranger.
it's just a
Mine.
stranger to the land, just like illegal aliens coming up here from Mexico doesn't mean they're
There's
coming
some
from
where
outer
they don't
space.
belong. No. Well, that's not a good way to say it.
And you shall, well, that is a good way to say it. You shall not eat anything leavened, in all your dwellings you shall eat unleavened bread. And then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, go and take yourself lambs according to your families, and slay the Passover lamb. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop. That's what I was talking about. I knew I had that word right. You shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood which is in the basin, and apply some of the blood which is in the basin to the lintel and to the two doorposts, and none of you shall go outside the door of his house until morning.
So do you know what they just did? Everything he read, what that meant? This is where they actually put the blood on their door frame. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's how they knew. That's how the angel of death knew. There's actually more than one angel of death. I don't know if y'all have ever thought about that or not, but there's actually more than one that come under Mitzrayim or Egypt, come into Egypt, and this is when they was getting out of there, and that's how they knew. That's how the messengers that Yahweh sent, that God sent, knew by the blood of that sacrifice that was painted on their doorpost with hyssop that they were to pass over that house. Is that too much? Kind of understand what we're talking about?
It's odd, but as long as you understand the story.
For the Lord will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the two doorposts, the Lord will pass over the door and will not allow the destroyer. That's what I was talking about, the destroyer. I don't know what yours says. the destroyer is
Angel.
the angels that he sent down to
That's
take
what
care of all
mine says
that.
too. Mine says destroyer. also.
What does my
Smite?
That's what it means.
there you go?
No, it doesn't necessarily mean to cut their throat, but I mean if I smite you down, that means you ain't getting back up again.
No, it says it too.
Okay. You shall observe this event as an ordinance for you and your children forever. And it will come about when you enter the land which the Lord gave to you, as he promised, that you shall observe this rite. And it will come about when your children will say to you, what does this rite mean to you? And that you will say, it is a Passover sacrifice to the Lord, who passed over the houses of the sons of Israel in Egypt when he smote the Egyptians, but spared our homes. And the people bowed low and worshiped. And the sons of Israel went out and did so, just as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron. So they did. Now it came about at midnight that the Lord struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on the throne, and the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh arose in the night, and he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was no home where there was not someone dead. And they called for Moses and Aaron at night and said, rise up, get out from among my people, both you and the sons of Israel, and go worship the Lord as you have said. Take your flocks and your herds as you have said, and go and bless me also. Get the heck out of here. I can't take it no more. I mean, he's done had frogs and locusts and gnats and everything else, and now they done killed all the firstborn kids. I mean, you'd be dead right now. And
But wouldn't we have done the blood thing?
yeah, we would have if we were
Then how would
children.
we do?
Well, no, I'm just saying if we were Egyptians.
We get scared.
Well, don't be an Egyptian. That's kind of the whole point of reading all this, ain't it? Just don't be Egypt. Don't be Egypt, and don't be the nations. We'll read about that here in just a little while. Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. So, all right, let's finish this up because this is kind of a long chapter. Wow, I said actually quite. No, we're only halfway through. Why are you? Come up in here. I was talking to the internet. You want to talk to folks? You want to be up in here? Not really. They like you more than they like me. Folks don't like to look at me sometimes. All right. Huh?
Just keep going. Your nana, I mean, your mom's.
My mom? Oh, good grief. It's
She was a picture of her granddaughter's daughter.
She cares.
all right. So I'm getting ready to leave right in here somewhere. The Egyptians urged people to send them out of the land in haste, and they said, we shall all be dead. And the people took their dough before it was leavened with their kneading bowls bound up in the clothes of their shoulders, and the sons of Israel done according to the word of Moses. For they had requested from the Egyptians articles of silver and articles of gold and clothing, and the Lord given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they might let them have their request. Thus they plundered the Egyptians. And now the sons of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, aside from children. And a mixed multitude also went up with them, along with flocks, herds, very large number of livestock. And they baked the dough which they had brought out of Egypt in cakes of unleavened bread, for it had not become leavened. And since they were driven out of Egypt and could not delay, nor had they prepared any provisions for themselves, and now the time that the sons of Israel lived in Egypt was 430 years. And it came about at the end of 430 years, to the very day, that all the host of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. It is a night to be observed for the Lord, for having brought them out from the land of Egypt. This night is for the Lord to be observed by all the sons of Israel throughout their generations. And the Lord said to Moses and to Aaron, This is the ordinance of the Passover. No foreigner. Well, why do they say foreigner there and they say alien everywhere else? No foreigner is to eat of it, but every man's slave purchased with money, after you have circumcised him. Well, same. Foreigner, stranger, alien, all this deal. This is a whole nother deal right here about circumcision that I don't like that much. This is the ordinance of the Passover. No foreigner is to eat of it, but every man's slave purchased with money, after you have circumcised him, then he may eat of it. We'll talk about that later. A sojourner or a hired servant shall not eat of it. It is to be eaten in a single house. You are not to bring forth any of the flesh outside the house, nor are you to break any bone of it. And that is a very important passage that y'all need to write down if you're going to take notes on stuff. Verse 46. If y'all want to write that down, we can talk about that later, because there is a very important part of Jesus' crucifixion that goes right along with that. It wasn't just by happenstance that Jesus didn't get his legs broken on the cross like the two thieves did. All the congregation of Israel are to celebrate this. But if a stranger sojourns with you and celebrates the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and let him come near and celebrate it. He shall be like a native of the land, but no uncircumcised person may eat of it. The same law shall apply to the native as to the stranger who sojourns among you. And then all the sons of Israel did so. They did just as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron. And it came about that same day that the Lord brought the sons of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their hosts. Questions. We can read, that's where 13 starts. We could, we're fixing to get to the part where the sea gets split apart. We could read the first little part of 13 and be done tonight, and then pick back up, and we could go into, we could do 14 tomorrow or the next day. Y'all got any questions about what I'm talking about? What happened? What's that?
Half my paper's gone now.
No, it ain't. I'll get you another notebook.
And I was wanted to take some of that.
You won't know. Just gonna take it away from me? Here, I'll give you a piece of this one.
Yeah.
You trying to make a page marker? Why don't you tear it up in little pieces? Let me show you something. We're gonna show the whole internet.
So just tear it off.
That's not how, I'm trying to show you how to tear a piece of paper in a straight line, and you mean, don't be like that. Sometimes every now and then, I know something that you don't know. It happens every now and then. It still works, but it's kind of like, you know,
No.
Well, driving a skateboard to work works too, but sometimes it's not the best idea.
So you're saying that having just
Would you just hold on a minute? I feel like you are the internet right now.
You already worked.
There's ways to overcome that.
Can we just read?
There.
They went through all that trouble.
Oh my goodness. Let's read more stuff. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, sanctify to me the firstborn, every firstborn, the first offspring of every womb among the sons of Israel, for man and beast belongs to me. Moses said to the people, remember this day in which you went out from Egypt, from the house of slavery. For by a powerful hand the Lord brought you out of this place, and nothing leavened shall be eaten. On this day, in the months of Abib, you are about to go forth. And it shall be when the Lord brings you to the land of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Hivite, and Jebusite, which he swore to your fathers to give to you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall observe. I can't talk. That you shall observe this rite in this month. For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the seventh day there shall be a feast of the Lord. And unleavened bread shall be eaten throughout the 7 days, and nothing leavened shall be seen among you, nor shall any leaven be seen among you in all your borders. And you shall tell your son on that day, saying, it is because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt. And it shall serve as a sign to you in your hand, and as a reminder on your forehead. Y'all might want to write that one down. That the law of the Lord may be in your mouth. For with the powerful hand the Lord brought you out of Egypt. Therefore you shall keep this ordinance at its appointed time from year to year. And it shall come about that the Lord brings you to the land of the Canaanite, and he swore to you and to your fathers, and gives it to you. And you shall devote to the Lord the first offspring of every womb, and the first offspring of every beast that you own, the males belong to the Lord. With the first offspring of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb. But if you do not redeem it, then you shall break its neck. And every firstborn man among your sons you shall redeem. And it shall be when your son asks you in time to come, saying, what is this? And you shall say to him, with a powerful hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt from the house of slavery. And it came about when the Pharaoh was stubborn about letting us go, that the Lord killed every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of beast. And therefore I sacrificed to the Lord the males.
Wait, so it happened to the animals too?
Yeah, everything. Yeah, all the livestock, the firstborn of all the livestock, firstborn of every man in Egypt that didn't have the blood sacrifice of the Passover
the
lamb.
animals can't really do the blood sacrifice, so that doesn't seem too fair.
Well, it's not about fairness, and that's what you got to understand with when it comes to dealing with God. It's not necessarily about fairness, and that's going to follow you for the rest of your life. It's not about what's fair and what ain't fair. It's about what you do about it, and that's kind of the moral of this whole story. Is well, oh, I'm still on the internet. Shut up, Patriot. But no, it's not about fairness. God actually hardened the heart of Pharaoh to keep him from letting them go until he was through showing the rest of the world the plagues that he wanted to show them. It was to teach a lesson. God actually hardened Pharaoh's heart. And God kept Pharaoh from letting him go until when God wanted him to be let go. And that's what you gotta kind of keep that in mind whenever you go through the rest of this. Does that make any sense at all? Or am I making it?
Yeah.
I'm
But
making
you
it.
just made a whole thing of questions pop up.
I'll write them down. There's your pencil.
Or ask them.
Write them down, ask them, whatever. If I can't answer them, I'll do my best to figure out how to answer them. Write them down. Here's a notebook. Seriously.
Write them down. We'll go over them later.
Yeah, we'll talk about them. Where did I stop? Oh. So it shall serve as a sign on your hand, and as a phylacteries on your forehead, phylacteries on your forehead. For with a powerful hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt.
Where are you
Starting
at?
17.
I got you.
Now it came about when the Pharaoh, and I wasn't going to go any further, but we might as well finish it, I guess.
13, yeah.
And it came about when the Pharaoh had let the people go, that God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, even though it was near, for God said, lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. And I think what he's trying to say right there is that they've been slaves for 430 years or whatever, and he didn't want to lead them right straight into war right away. He wanted to harden them up in the desert. Read the rest of it. He wanted to harden them up a little bit before they were just. He figured they'd just turn right around and go back to Egypt. And they tried to do it even at the end of 40 years. After being in the wilderness for 40 years, they wouldn't even cross over the Jordan. Moses never got to see the promised land. If you think about that. There was I can't remember. It was
harden them up.
Because they needed to be hardened up, and they've been living in Egypt the whole time, kind of like us living in the internet and air conditioning and stuff. If we was going to go out in the desert and fight a bunch of folks, we'd probably have to harden up a little bit too, living out of tents and eating bread that wouldn't even rose up. If that's what we're talking about.
So here's a little excerpt. It says, there's a whole bunch before this, but his choice to keep the Pharaoh alive and his choice of route displays who the Lord is. As a result of it, the Israelites would watch the Lord fight for them. They would experience his care and his willingness to work in spite of their frailties.
Yeah, it was about building their faith up in him. And if you I think it was a 160 something thousand men, 166,000 men? I have to go back and look.
400 something?
No, it was 160 something thousand military age men that fled, and that they took their families with them. So you're talking about just the men. Then you're talking about you guys and their wives and their moms and their grandmas and their stepdaddies and daddy's stepdaddies and everybody else that went along with them. So you probably could multiply that number by about 6. That's how many people fled into the desert. The people that come out on the other side of it were of a whole completely different generation. The exodus that actually happened, everybody died. There was 2 dudes. I think it was Joshua and Caleb were the only 2 males that actually left from Egypt that were of the original generation. And Caleb was the dude that whenever he had a little council. We're going to get to that here in a minute. They had a little council, and they actually sent, once they got over there close to the promised land, they sent a handful of guys, and I think it was like 1 dude from every tribe. So it was 12 guys, and they come back, and after they went over there and did their little intel session and figuring out what was going on and all the giants and everything that they were worried about fighting and all that kind of stuff, and everybody got scared. And they went over there and they looked at it, and they come back and they voted on it. And Joshua and Caleb was over here like, let's go get it. And then 30-something years later, they're still sitting here saying, let's go get it. I want that hill over there. And they like just, I can't remember how old he was. I want to say he was like 90-something, 100 years old. It's on that thing in there in the closet. But God intentionally killed off a whole generation of his chosen people because they didn't believe. They didn't believe enough. Even after all the miracles and everything that they see from this point forward, they still don't believe enough sometimes. Just like us. Sometimes we don't believe enough too.
Yeah, we've been given a multitude of blessings, and there's still days that we forget who did it for us, and we think we're arrogant enough to think we control that.
Yeah, we're not in control. The only thing that we're in control of is what we choose to do whenever we wake up in the morning, and even that really isn't control. I mean, it's only a certain level of free will that we have. And
even that, he knows what we're going to do.
He already knows what we're going to do before we do it, even though he's given us the option. And now that's a very complex way to something to understand. It's hard for me to understand too. But anyway, y'all want to read a little bit more? Y'all want to shut this down? What y'all want to do? Well, I guess you want to finish 13. Let's
4 verses left.
I know, squirrel. Hence God led the people around the way of the wilderness into the Red Sea, and the sons of Israel went up in martial array from the land of Egypt. And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, saying, God shall surely take care of you, and ye shall carry my bones from here with you. And they set out from Succoth, and they camped beneath them on the edge of the wilderness. And the Lord was going before them in a pillar of cloud by day to lead them on the way, and a pillar of fire by night to lead them by light, that they might travel by day and by night. And they did not take away the pillar of cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people. That's something that I never really have understood. It seems like I remember somebody else on the internet reading about that a little bit. They're marching, and they're talking about marching in martial form towards the Red Sea, and there's a column of smoke in front of them during the day that's provided by God, and then at night it's a column of fire. So they're marching day and night, and he's guiding them like a torch ahead of them, like a giant torch. So he was in their presence even before the Ark of the Covenant and everything. He was in their presence, actually trying to help them. Do y'all have questions? I mean, I've got questions, but do y'all have questions? If not, I'm gonna leave that page marker right there, and we can keep going. Why don't everybody write down some questions like you just did right there? Go back through the stuff that we just talked about and write down some more questions. Now you can keep this. Well, keep this page anyway. I think I've got some other stuff wrote down in here. Keep this page and write down some more questions, and you write down some questions. And next time we do this, whether we do it on the internet or not, we can talk about stuff first, and then before we read more. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of questions from when we were reading the story, though I didn't really have many.
Well, just think about it. If you come up with more, just write them down.
And if y'all want to read ahead on 14 before the next time we sit down, you might have questions that we can answer.
That would probably actually be a better way to do it. If we all read
14.
a chapter ahead, if we all read 14 and 15 or something like that, and then write down any questions that you have, and then we can all reread it together and talk about it. And that would probably be a lot more efficient way of studying if y'all want to do it like that. You got anything you want to say to the internet? You want to anything that anybody's been saying up in here? I don't know what anybody's been saying up in here.
There was one comment I was curious about.
Well, where is it? Let's scroll up here. Where we going?
Keep going.
Keep going. All the way to the top?
No, don't go so fast now. I can't read.
Well, here, you do it. Other button. No, there you go.
Yeah, I gotta
Questions?
I don't see any questions. I haven't seen any questions.
The beard looks like it got met with humidity.
What is
What, my beard?
It's all curly.
that supposed to mean?
Pushing.
Biblical go bags. Yeah, like
Those bags you make Shaw pack
you know,
all the
I
time?
make you pack all those bags all the time that's got all the stuff in them. A biblical go bag would be up here.
Well, I think it was back when, during Passover, when they were having all their stuff ready.
Oh, that probably was, yeah, that was almost 30 minutes ago. Han Solo he always makes some good comments though. He's pretty cool. There's a bunch of cool people in here, to be honest. There's a lot of cool people in there.
Okay.
You can keep going down. Patriotic Poet 80. I've already subscribed to Patriotic Poet 80. He has one question. What's up? I did not see. Said he did a stream on Matthew today. Why didn't I get? I know. Every time I try to click on stuff. The stream on Matthew today. Why didn't I? Well, I don't get notifications on.
Do you press the notification bell?
Yes, Gracie. That's the notification bell. You don't understand. There's a lot of stuff on the internet that's
Okay. We're good.
Yeah, I guess we're good. I guess we're done. Time to call it over.
Make sure he lands it right, Bryce.
What you talking about? You gonna pray?
She doesn't want to be the one to pray.
We can pray. We can pray to the internet.
Oh, look, there's this question. Why did the bread have to be unleavened with the bitter herbs?
There was the herbs that they used that were bitter. That was also part of some of the burnt sacrifice that's used in some of the other feasts and stuff too. I don't really know why it had to be bitter herbs, but I do know that I think even whenever they were eating manna that we're fixing to be talking about here in a little while, it was even likened to some bitter herbs and stuff like that. Also, I can't remember which one. Is it like coriander or something like that? But there's it was likened to that and bread that was baked with honey and that kind of stuff. But there was a reason that the meat sacrifice had to be seasoned with bitter herbs before it was sent up as a burnt offering. And I don't know the exact answer to that. Because God said so. Yeah. I mean, it's, that would be something to try to look up, though. I'm sure it's right in there in that same area where we were just talking. I just don't remember. And anyway, y'all want to pray? Turn the internet off. You pray and turn the internet off. I'm gonna pray and turn the internet off. Father in heaven, appreciate you letting us do this one more time. I sure do appreciate everybody in this house, and I appreciate the house that we can all stay in. There's a handful of folks out there that really need a prayer, and I know that you know who you are, and Lord, I know you know who they are. I just hope you be with them and keep helping them move forward. Please help us to understand what we're reading and help everybody else that might be listening to this. You know, if they got questions about stuff, if they're asking any of us here, help guide us and directing them to the right place, and maybe we'll direct ourselves in the right place at the same time. I really am thankful for being here one more day, and hopefully you'll let me be here one more day tomorrow. And I sure do appreciate you sending your son down here, so we might have a chance to come sit next to you one day and ask you a whole bunch of questions. We love you. In Jesus' name, and in all thankfulness. Amen. Later, Internet.
So I wonder, a little commentary in my book about